The darkness enveloped the small spaceship as it made its descent onto the unfamiliar planet. The planet was not on any of the known maps, and the crew of 3 was making history as the first humans to set foot on its surface. But as soon as the ship touched down, the 3 astronauts began to realize that something was not right. The air was thick and unbreathable, and the sky was a sickly green color. They quickly put on their oxygen masks and stepped out of the ship. The landscape was barren and desolate, with no signs of life. The ground was rocky and seemed to be covered in a thin layer of ash. The only sound was the howling wind, which seemed to carry with it a sinister tone. As they began to explore, they stumbled upon a large structure in the distance. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before, with twisted metal spires reaching up towards the sky. They made their way towards it, the feeling of unease growing with every step. Once they reached the structure, they were greeted by a sight that made their blood run cold. There were strange, otherworldly creatures lurking in the shadows, watching their every move. The creatures were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow in the darkness. Their eyes were large and black, and they had razor-sharp teeth that glinted in the green light. The astronauts tried to retreat, but the creatures were too quick. They were surrounded with no way out. The creatures closed in, their long arms reaching out to grab the humans. One of the astronauts, John, bravely stepped forward and tried to communicate with the creatures, but they showed no signs of understanding. Suddenly, one of the creatures lunged forward, its sharp teeth inches from John's face. Just as it was about to sink its teeth into him, a blinding light filled the area. The creatures recoiled in terror, and the astronauts were able to make a run for it. They stumbled back to the ship, the creatures hot on their trail. They managed to get inside and take off, leaving the alien planet behind. But the horrors of the planet stayed with them, haunting their dreams and memories. They had stumbled upon an alien race that was not friendly, and the knowledge of the existence of such creatures was a burden that they would carry for the rest of their lives. The 3 astronauts never spoke of the alien planet again, but the memory of the twisted metal spires and the glowing creatures lingered in their minds. They knew that somewhere out there, on that dark and desolate world, the creatures were waiting, ready to terrorize any unsuspecting visitors that may stumble upon their home. Each of the astronauts returned to their normal life. None of them sought therapy for the trauma they endured in that alien world, as the mission was still highly classified. The 2 who stayed on the ship seemed to bounce back eventually, even starting families of their own with the money they made from the still classified Space Force mission to that alien world. But John was suffering, not only in his dreams and memories, but his waking life was now affected. He began to experience painful headaches and seizures, followed by visions of light orbs. At first, medications helped relieve his symptoms, but he always developed a tolerance, and eventually he found nothing could even touch a sense of relief for him. The lights started developing more ornate forms, and soon John was actually able to make out different symbols and strange bodies. He started drawing them and attempting to depict these strange visions he was receiving in his journal. He began to notice consistent patterns that kept emerging, and he got better and better at drawing them out. One such pattern became an object of his obsession. He would draw it over and over again until his entire journal was filled with symbols. Until the morning when it all came to a head. His pain and feverish mind were no longer responding to any medications whatsoever, and his skin grew pale and translucent. His whole body began trembling, and as his body seized, his mind was blasted in 1,000 directions, seeing endless streams of light at glorious orders of magnitude. A white orb of light appeared before him, and then it surrounded him. All visions and vibrations ceased. He looked down and saw his body beneath him. All fear and pain faded from his awareness. He started floating upwards, slowly at first, then at marvelous speeds that even his ship couldn't touch. Blasting through the heavens past the stars and planets and galaxies, he began to feel a heaviness overcome him again, almost as if he was materializing. He felt a large golden light in his chest. He was tremendously huge, bigger than a planet. He felt an itch and, looking down, saw himself and the other astronauts walking on his stomach.